When my wife's personal trainer cornered me in the gym parking lot and said, "She deserves better than you," I just smiled and walked away. He had no idea what I'd discovered about his training sessions, or what was about to happen to his entire business empire. My name is Willie Walker. I'm 47 years old, a financial advisor in Riverside, California, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had a solid marriage with Sophia, my wife of 18 years. We'd weathered the usual ups and downs, raised 2 kids who were now in college, and settled into what I believed was comfortable middle age. The changes began subtly. Sophia started working out more, trading yoga for personal training at Summit Performance Gym. At first, I was supportive. She deserved to feel confident about herself, and if fitness helped her mood, I was all for it. Sophia would return energized, mentioning Blake's encouragement and her incredible potential. I'd met Blake once, tall, muscular with that practiced trainer smile. He'd complimented Sophia's dedication while giving me a firm handshake. Over weeks, sessions stretched from 1 hour to 3. Sophia explained Blake offered nutrition counseling and lifestyle coaching. She described redesigning her entire wellness approach, focusing on mindset transformation rather than just exercise. Red flags appeared in January, late-night texts that Sophia dismissed as schedule adjustments, new passcodes on her phone and laptop. When questioned, she became defensive about trust and monitoring her technology. As a financial advisor, I've learned to notice patterns, inconsistencies that don't align with stated facts. Sophia's behavior was developing patterns that concerned me. Weekend training sessions began, supposedly private appointments. Duplicate gym charges appeared on our credit card. When questioned, Sophia mentioned upgraded premium packages worth more than money as health investments. Credit card statements revealed restaurant bills, hotel charges, and purchases at unfamiliar stores. By February, Sophia spent more time at the gym than home. Her explanations grew elaborate. Revolutionary outdoor training, mountain hiking sessions. Our intimate life vanished. Sophia claimed exhaustion from training, sleeping separately due to my supposed snoring. The breaking point came Tuesday evening in March when I surprised her at the gym around 8 p.m. The parking lot was nearly empty. Through windows, Blake and Sophia sat intimately on a bench, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. When they stood, he kissed her passionately. I watched for 20 minutes, hands shaking, then drove home without confronting them. While Sophia showered that night, I called Trevor Walsh, a private investigator from previous fraud cases. I requested surveillance documentation until we had everything needed. Trevor didn't ask questions. Marital investigations were routine. 2 weeks of daily reports revealed photos at restaurants, hotels, shopping centers. Text logs showed intimate conversations. Financial records showed Blake using Sophia's credit cards personally. But the most damaging evidence came from Trevor's background investigation. Trevor had been investigating Blake's background when he discovered something interesting. Blake Robinson wasn't just cheating with my wife. He had a pattern. If this story has you hooked, hit subscribe, because Blake's past was about to catch up with him. Blake had been running this scheme for 3 years, targeting married professionals with disposable income, seducing them, then extracting money through fraudulent methods. Trevor's investigation revealed at least 6 previous victims, women who'd paid for expensive premium training packages that included personal shopping, nutrition consulting, and lifestyle coaching. Blake had convinced these women to invest in his various business ventures, personal training certifications, and equipment purchases. The pattern was always the same: intense personal attention, promises of transformation, gradual isolation from their spouses, then financial manipulation disguised as investment opportunities. He's been working this scam systematically, Trevor explained during our meeting. Your wife isn't his first victim, and she won't be his last unless someone stops him. That's when I learned about Gabrielle Morrison, Blake's ex-wife who'd been trying to expose his fraudulent activities for months. She'd lost $80,000 to his schemes before discovering he was simultaneously running the same con on multiple women. He's been using Summit Performance Gym as his base of operations, Gabrielle told me when Trevor arranged our meeting. The owner, Kyle Hendricks, has no idea what's happening. Blake rents private training time and uses the facility to meet his targets. I tried going to police, Gabrielle explained, but Blake's clever. Everything appears consensual on paper. That's when I realized something that Blake hadn't counted on. Unlike his previous victims, I wasn't just an angry husband. I was a financial advisor with forensic accounting experience and professional connections throughout the business community. I spent the next week building a comprehensive case file, not just on Blake's relationship with Sophia, but on his entire operation. Bank records, credit card statements, business registrations, tax filings. What I discovered was staggering. Blake had generated over $300,000 in revenue from his various schemes, most of it unreported income. He'd established multiple business entities, opened accounts under different names, and created an elaborate network designed to hide his activities from both his victims and the tax authorities. But Blake had made one critical mistake. He'd been using Summit Performance Gym's business account to process some of his fraudulent transactions, creating a paper trail that implicated the gym in his activities. On Thursday evening, March 15th, Blake finally confronted me directly. I was leaving my office when he appeared in the parking lot, blocking my path to my car. Up close, he was more intimidating than I'd expected. 6 feet tall, probably 200 pounds of muscle with the aggressive posture of someone accustomed to physical dominance. "We need to talk," he said, stepping closer. I remained calm, keeping my voice steady. "About what?" "About Sophia. About you backing off and letting her make her own choices." I nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And what choices would those be?" His confidence grew. "She deserves better than you. A real man who understands what she needs. And you're that man?" "I'm everything you're not. Young, fit, ambitious. I can give her things you never could." I almost smiled at his arrogance. "Such as?" "Passion, adventure, a future worth having instead of boring suburban existence with a middle-aged accountant." I let his words hang in the air for a moment, then I said quietly, "You're absolutely right. Sophia does deserve better." Blake looked surprised by my agreement. "She deserves better than being scammed by a con artist who's been running the same scheme on married women for 3 years. His face changed. The confident smirk disappeared. "She deserves better than someone who's stolen money from at least 6 other victims while promising them transformation and new lives." Blake stepped back, but I continued. "She deserves better than a fraud who's been using Summit Performance Gym to launder unreported income while evading taxes on hundreds of thousands of dollars." His voice was no longer steady. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know about Gabrielle, your ex-wife. I know about Sarah Martinez, Jennifer Collins, and 4 other women you've conned out of their life savings." Blake's hands clenched into fists. "You're making stuff up. I know about your offshore accounts, your multiple business registrations, and your partnership with Damian Cross in the supplement distribution scheme." That last detail hit home. Damian Cross was Blake's silent partner in several ventures, someone he'd believed was completely hidden from any investigation. "How did you—" Blake started, then stopped himself. "I'm a forensic financial advisor, Blake. Finding hidden money and fraudulent business practices is what I do for a living. You picked the wrong target this time." Blake tried to regain control. "None of that matters. Sophia's in love with me. She's leaving you regardless." "Is she? Have you told her about the other women, about the money you've stolen, about the federal tax evasion investigation that's about to begin?" His face went completely white. "Because I have. I showed her everything yesterday evening. Photos, bank records, testimonies from your other victims. She's at a hotel right now, deciding whether to press charges against you for fraud or just divorce me and disappear quietly." Blake stared at me, processing what I'd just revealed. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone and showed him a text message from Sophia, timestamped 2 hours earlier. "I need time to think. I can't come home right now. I'm sorry." "She knows everything, Blake, about your scams, about your patterns, about what you really are. The question now is what you're going to do about it." Blake's aggressive posture crumbled. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear from our lives. I want you to close down your fraudulent operations. And I want you to make restitution to your victims. And if I don't, then tomorrow morning I'll be meeting with Agent Patricia Brennan from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. I'll also be contacting the California State Board of Fitness Professionals, the Better Business Bureau, and Elite Force Athletics." Blake looked confused. "Elite Force Athletics?" "The gym chain that's been considering purchasing Summit Performance Gym. I imagine they'd be very interested to learn that their potential acquisition has been used as a front for systematic fraud." I could see Blake calculating, trying to find an escape route that didn't exist. "You can't prove any of this," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I have bank records showing transfers from your victims' accounts to your business entities. I have recorded conversations with Gabrielle and 3 other women detailing your methods. I have tax documents showing unreported income. I have surveillance footage of you using Summit Performance Gym after hours for non-training activities." Each piece of evidence I mentioned seemed to deflate him further. "Most importantly, I have Sophia's complete financial records showing exactly how much money you've extracted from our accounts over the past 4 months. $47,000 in various charges disguised as training fees, lifestyle consulting, and equipment purchases." Blake's shoulders sagged. He hadn't realized I'd been tracking every transaction. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. "Now you have a choice. You can cooperate with making things right, or you can try to fight this and lose everything publicly." I handed him a business card. "That's my attorney. If you want to discuss restitution and a quiet resolution, call her by Friday. If not, the FBI will be taking over on Monday." Blake took the card with trembling hands. "This isn't over," he said, but the threat sounded hollow. "You're right," I replied. It's not over, it's just beginning. Because now you're going to learn what happens when you target the wrong family." I walked to my car, leaving Blake standing alone in the parking lot. 2 days later, Sophia came home. We talked for hours, sometimes arguing, sometimes crying, but finally communicating honestly for the first time in months. "I was so stupid," she said. "He made me feel special, like I was the only person who mattered to him." "You weren't stupid. You were targeted by someone who's very good at manipulation." "How long did you know?" "I suspected for weeks. I've known for certain for 2 weeks." She looked at me with something between gratitude and shame. "Why didn't you just confront me? Why go through all this investigation?" "Because I needed to understand what we were really dealing with. If I'd just accused you of having an affair, you might have left with him. This way, you got to see who he really is." Blake never called my attorney. Instead, he disappeared from Riverside entirely. Trevor's contacts informed me that he'd moved to Arizona, apparently to start over with a new identity. Summit Performance Gym closed 2 weeks later when Kyle Hendricks discovered the extent to which Blake had been using his facility for fraudulent activities. Elite Force Athletics withdrew their acquisition offer immediately. The FBI did open an investigation, but Blake's disappearance made prosecution difficult. However, the case file remained active, and several of his victims were able to recover portions of their losses through civil suits. Sophia and I began marriage counseling. The process was difficult, painful, but necessary. We had to rebuild trust, communication, and intimacy that had been damaged by months of deception. 6 months later, we renewed our vows in a small ceremony with our children present. It wasn't about erasing what had happened, but about choosing to build something stronger from the wreckage. The most satisfying moment came a year later when Agent Patricia Brennan called. Blake had been arrested in Phoenix for targeting military wives. The evidence I'd compiled was being used to establish a pattern of behavior that would ensure serious federal charges. "He picked the wrong target when he went after your family," Agent Brennan told me. "Your investigation saved other families from going through what you experienced." Sometimes the best revenge isn't personal. Sometimes it's justice served systematically and thoroughly. As I hung up the phone, I looked across the room at Sophia, who was reading on the couch, content and secure. She'd learned hard lessons about trust and manipulation. I'd learned hard lessons about communication and taking relationships for granted. Blake Robinson had thought he was targeting a weak, middle-aged husband who'd be easy to intimidate and dismiss. Instead, he'd chosen to threaten someone with the skills, resources, and determination to dismantle his entire operation piece by piece. Some people really should check who they're dealing with before they start making threats.